Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the A24 project here on the Nerd Party Network, where me and Dallas King make our way through the A24 filmography, now TV shows, and aim to bring you interviews with the people involved in front of and behind the camera. In this episode, I'm joined by one of A24's most prolific collaborators, whose work we've discussed in great detail in our news section and in the episodes themselves, but we've never once known their name, and that is movie trailer editor Tommy Malatesta. Tommy's worked on the marketing campaigns for some of A24's most popular trailers. He's worked on Free Fire, Green Room, It Comes at Night, The Witch, Climax, Hereditary, Midsommar, The Lighthouse, and the upcoming Green Knight. Tommy takes us behind the scenes on how he creates and edits trailers, working with A24, the collaboration between directors like Ari Aster and Robert Eggers when developing trailers, and much more. It's great that we can finally put a name to the work that gets so many of us excited about going to see A24 films. Thanks so much to Tommy for coming on the show, and I hope you too will enjoy the episode and view the trailers in a different light.
It's Grandma. You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby, she wouldn't let me feed you because she needed to feed you. She was a very difficult...
So it's a pleasure to be joined by you today. It's amazing to have you on the show today, as I think in our sort of over 100 plus episodes, we've discussed your work more than any other actor or director with the trailers that you've made for A24, but we've never known the person behind them. We kind of know what the traditional journey of actors and filmmakers are, but what was your road to becoming a movie trailer editor?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure. The road to becoming a trailer editor was one that I didn't really know I was going down. I went to school at Pittsburgh. I went to school at University of Pittsburgh for film theory. Why things needed to happen in films for it to be a good story and have a good arc. And in there, we had a joint program with Pittsburgh filmmakers where I got to make 8mm films and 6mm films. And that's where I really my eyes opened up there, and I was like, oh, I can actually touch this stuff and, really create something. And then shortly after, I got my first laptop and Final Cut Pro on it and cut a wedding video. And that was kind of it. That was a game changer. Before that, I was editing on the VHS tape, the stopping and starting and having these really choppy edits. It's impossible to do. So I started cutting wedding videos and learned the ins and outs of Final Cut, and then got an internship. That was kind of it. And the internship was with a company that did home entertainment stuff, which doesn't exist anymore. But we would get basically the domestic campaign for, let's say, a movie like Superbad or whatever. And we would just repurpose the spots for now the DVD is available. And there I kind of learned you got to see the work that was done in the domestic campaign. You get to see the ins and outs and how they did it. And so that was kind of my start into it. And then when I went over to AV Squad is when I really hit kind of the big game. And is this little fish and this big pond of all these amazing editors and producers and creative directors. And that's where I really did my growing.
Before we sort of dive into your work on A24 trailers, you've worked on a range of films and campaigns. What are some of the ones that you're most proud of, or people might not be aware that you were the man behind them?
I gotta say, probably The Gambler, Mark Wahlberg movie. It was kind of a small movie, didn't really make a splash, but I cut a teaser for that where I was in my career, I was, like I just said earlier, I really didn't have that much confidence just because I was in a shop with all these amazing editors. And that Gambler Red Band trailer was the first time it was I just put out a really good piece, and I'm still really proud of it. And that was the moment when I was okay, I can do this. I can kind of hang with this level of work. And I always kind of use that as that's the first trailer that kind of launched me.
What's like a traditional day or week like in your job? Like how does it kind of work from start to finish? And how early does someone like you get involved in the process for marketing a film?
Well, every film's a little different just because sometimes, I mean, the preferred time is when we get a movie that is kind of polished, has a soundtrack, is mixed. That's the best for us, obviously. But then sometimes we're just getting dailies in as they shoot, which can kind of be a little more of a hassle just because there's so much media to organize. But I'd say a daily week looks like, let's say you come in and you'll get a brief on this new movie's coming in, and we'll jump on a creative call with the client, and they'll say it's really rough, broad strokes on what they're kind of looking for. Maybe some things that they want to avoid because they may have tested the film and they're like, well, this part of the storyline is really not working for people. So we'll kind of avoid stuff like that. But it's really, hey, here's this film. What can you guys do? And we've just done it so many times where we kind of just know. So we kind of know where to go. So, have a movie in, get in my bay. Hopefully it's a horror movie. I'll turn the lights down. And if I have the time, I like to just sit and watch it. Rarely take notes, just experience the film as if I was in the theater. And then from there, I'll kind of get back into it, maybe take a break, get back into it and watch it again. But this time it's a really thorough breakdown of every character's dialogue, great tension moments. I'll do an extensive sound breakdown. And this breakdown will have doors shutting, footsteps, little things that you would not think that you really need, but over the years, I need that stuff. And it's like, from me needing, a footstep in a trailer, that goes into my kind of my memory bank. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just pull that stuff next time I break down a movie. And then from there, you have the movie broken down, and there, it's kind of like an industry standard now where it's 2 weeks. You never really get 2 weeks to cut a version one, but we'll just say that's the industry standard. And from there, it's, I have a team. I have a creative director, and I work with, my graphics creative director, and we kind of, do a little powwow on, I'm thinking about using this speech to grid the opening. And then from there, the back end, we'll get the drums, and we'll go kind of a little bombastic. But then you just kind of have a little powwow with your team, and graphics go off and start designing style frames. And I'll go up to music and talk to music about, they had this really great scene where the mother-son is playing the piano. Let's pull some piano tracks. Mm-hmm. So my music team is amazing. They are the emotion of the trailer. So they are responsible for so much of all the work that I've done. So then I have, I pull the stuff from music, I get the stuff from graphics, and I'm just kind of I'm pulling dialogue, I'm building sound. I guess you could kind of say it's kind of like, maybe I'm being pretentious, but like an ice sculpture where it's like, there's a trailer in there, you're just chiseling away and you're finding it, and you're taking out the fat, you're taking out, this is, I have a character saying this sentence in 3 lines here, but this line says it in 1. Let's use this instead. So it's kind of that, and it's just version after version internally and sculpting something, and 2 weeks later, you should hopefully have a sendable version 1.
What's it like for you when your work goes out into the world and you see people in cinemas watching your work, and kind of trailers have become so events in themselves? People are excited for trailer launches. Are you someone that's on there like on social media going, oh, my new trailer for The Gamblers launched, or Hereditary? How are people connecting with it and looking at the comments? Do you just keep yourself in a bit of a bubble?
No, I mean, any trailer that says they don't look at that stuff is probably lying. It's a great day because we'll know ahead of time, because we'll talk to the client. We'll know ahead of time, hey, your trailer's dropping, this Tuesday, and like you're pumped, you're so excited. It's like we're out in California, so it's usually, for A24 stuff, they launch 6 a.m. our time. So I'm up then, you're seeing it launch. And then of course, all these publications pick it up, and it's a great day. It's like you've done all this work, and it's like months of work of going back and forth and tweaking shots and doing all this stuff. And it's finally out there in the world. But to see your piece in the theater is kind of the reason, at least for me, it's like the reason I got into this. It's like going into a movie theater and just having a trailer just blast at you is no greater feeling. And like for that to be your work, it's just top.
Absolutely. You've worked on a range of A24 films. We'll list them here: Green Room, It Comes at Night, Climax, The Witch, Hereditary, Midsommar, St. Maud, The Lighthouse, and The Green Knight. How did that sort of relationship come around? How did you become the go-to guy?
Well, kind of a little luck, but we had this movie come in called The Witch, and this was before A24 was really what they are. I mean, definitely what they are now, but no one really knew what A24 was. So we got The Witch in, and I always say the story where the assistant editors load the movie in, and they're like, "Oh, Tommy, you got to work on The Witch. Like, good luck with that one. Like, there's no scares in that one." And by at that time, a movie like The Witch really hadn't come out, where it's just a slow burn, and we're so accustomed to having these stop down moments and somebody jump out of the side, and that's what you need to make a good trailer. So The Witch definitely didn't have that, and I watched it, same thing, turned the lights on, and I was like, I had chills. It was just, and it's still to this day, it's like one of my top horror movies. Like Robert Eggers is just a kind of a game changer. So I had that, and I was never so motivated to cut a trailer. And it was just, the score was, I barely needed to talk to music because the score was so original and just so amazing, where I think I used 3 different pieces of score in that trailer. And even the dialogue, the way Edgar's had everybody talk so realistic, it was just, everything was there. And that was it. That was the start. And then I cut that, and the Witch trailer did so well online. I mean, everywhere. Everyone loved The Witch. We have 2 trailer awards, award shows here, and that won the best horror trailer of the year, and that was kind of it. And then in comes Green Room into the shop, and that's when I kind of not boxed people out, but I was like, give me that one too. Mm-hmm. And I took that one, and there's a story about that one too, but after that was it. It was like, Tommy's doing such a great job on The Witch and The Green Room. It's like, yeah, sure. It's like it's a smaller studio. Let them keep going. And then I kind of just became that guy at the shop. But it was because of hard work, but it's also because of like, this is like, let me have this. Like, this is, yeah.
What are they like as sort of a partner to work with on a project? How much involvement do them and other clients having in guiding your work or delivering feedback, or are you very much trusted as the artist?
It's a great partnership. We work with a guy named Graham Retzik for all of these. He's a hero. Not only is he doing, we'll have maybe two A24 movies in, but he's doing all of the marketing, working in other shops with movies that we don't cut. He's great. He legit only makes the pieces better. But there is also a lot of trust at this point, where I work with a guy named Brent Buckman at my shop, and it's him and I are a great team. And Graham trusts us. He'll even just send a movie over, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you anything about this. Just watch it. And it's like, see what you can come up with sometimes. But here's an example. Graham, he'll lean into stuff. So we cut the first Midsommar trailer, and at the time we didn't really know, like, man, this is a horror movie and it's just so bright. And originally we thought that might have been an issue. So we made these graphics that were super dark, and we're like, this will be good. This will kind of at least bring the palette into a little middle ground. And he's like, no, just brighten up the graphics, make them white, like lean into it. So it's a bit of both. He feeds off our creative, and he only makes the pieces better. So, but it's a great partnership. So yeah, A24 is great in terms of they're not as what's a political way of saying this? They're not as crazy as the bigger studios. Bigger studios just have, I don't know if it's to have more money on the line, but it can be a much harder job to get a trailer out into the world. It's obviously for many different reasons, but for example, an A24 trailer may finish on, let's just say, a version 10 or 15 or 20, where a studio trailer can go, we've had them in the 60s and stuff, which is a hell of a lot of work. For whatever one, I think it always comes down to money, right? So for whatever reason, I'm sure it's about money that these studios aren't happy, or if the director isn't happy, we're always starting over with the studios. Where A24, I'd say they value tone and vibe more than, is this going to hit all four quadrants? They're kind of selling the movie for what it is, and whatever happens kind of happens. The studio is going to make sure their movie's four quadrant, because four quadrant means more money. And so when you have that, there's more problems and more boxes to check, which might make the studio process a little more difficult.
We went through obviously the list of the films that you've worked on there, and they tend to be all on the side of the thrillers and the horrors. There's no Lady Bird, for example, in there. What is it that attracts you to this type of genre and title, personally and professionally?
The horror, it's the feel, it's the emotion. I like movies that obviously that make me feel something, and it's like it needs to be a horror, it needs to be sad. People that say they don't like horror for the reasons that I do like horror. I like being totally involved in the movie, being tense, and I like being scared. I always bring it to The Conjuring 1, which is one of my top horror movies. That movie is still to this day top horror movie, but it's just something about the way you feel and the uneasiness of, I can't believe sitting in front of this screen can make me feel so uneasy. One of the first movies that did that to me was Requiem for a Dream in college. And that was like, that movie still is a catalyst for me being out in California. I was just shocked that I just remember the chills going down my body, just how like the dread I felt after that movie. I was just amazed that you could make something that did that. And horror does that for me. I really feel something. I escaped, let's say daily life for those 2 hours, and it's just amazing.
Kind of thinking about Requiem for a Dream and your work, I remember like Requiem for a Dream hit me. I was in high school at the time and I watched it, and it was sort of around that sort of YouTube age where there would be things like videos that would be up of like Requiem for a Dream trailer filtered through a different movie. Like I always remember there was a Toy Story 2 one, for example, and it was like, that is the coolest thing ever. And then in those years that sort of you go from that Requiem for a Dream trailer to a lot of your work, it is parodied, inspired, like Midsommar, but meets, I can't even think of a film off the top of my head at the moment. I've had a total blank, but Midsommar meets this, Hereditary meets that. Has it surprised you that your work has maybe sort of ended up following in that kind of similar cycle to Requiem for a Dream in a way?
It's amazing. And there's a Hereditary, not Berenstain Bears, Paddington Bear.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which is amazing. Yeah, I'm still shocked that like I'm cutting stuff that thousands of people are loving, and it's like for someone to obviously ingest Paddington Bear into their editing machine and then bring in my trailer, like someone's out there taking the time to do that. It's just amazing.
You touched on it. The Witch was your first A24 project that you'd worked on. We've had Robert Eggers on before, and many of his kind of collaborators from some of his films and working behind the scenes. And he seems to be someone that has a very clear vision. He has these books about everything that he wants. It's all thought out. Does that give you much breathing room as like a creative talent yourself to go, okay, I've maybe got to filter it through this guy's specific vision? Or is there sort of that breathing room to collaborate with someone like that that's got such a clear view about their work?
With Robert Eggers coming from New York and sit with me for Cutting the Witch, I remember Graham's in New York, our A24 client, and he said, yeah, he's coming in, he really wants to work on the trailer. And I was just like so excited that day. He came in, and like you said, that's a guy that knows what he wants. I learned a few things from him. There's a little section I had where it was the father's chopping the corn, and it was like chop, chop, whistle, chop, chop. And I had this little rhythm section, and he definitely didn't appreciate the rhythm section. So we lost it. And that was kind of some information I kind of stuck in my back pocket. And then I cheated some dialogue in the very back end of the trailer. The trailer did end with, there's evil in the woods, because that's how I talk and that's how I would do it. And he was never angry or upset. He was like, no, it's evil in the wood. That's how they talked back then. Mm-hmm. And so like it was just very clear. It was very clear how, in his mind, how things should have been. And so very authentic to the time period. So I brought some of that kind of stuff over to the Lighthouse. I didn't dare cut rhythmically in the Lighthouse as much as you can hold back on the trailers. But I never messed with the dialogue and like how they talked, how Defoe and Pattinson talked. But yeah, that's a guy that's he's a game changer, and like nothing's gonna deter this guy. He knows what he wants, and I'm just like thrilled for whatever he's gonna do next.
When I was like kind of looking through, obviously I've touched on, I've seen so much of your work without realizing it was you, but I made a little playlist. I was like, I'm going to just kind of watch Tommy's trailers. And one that really stood out for me was when the kind of Green Room campaign. And I could sort of see that I was thinking, you start to maybe get a feel when you watch these trailers thinking, I get this editor a little bit, maybe what inspires them. That seemed to blend that kind of horror tense elements with something that's quite musical. You tend to use music quite a bit as sort of tempo or to soundtrack. Was that something that you felt for you was kind of a perfect coming together of your tastes and interests?
I guess before coming up into the kind of the horror genre at the shop, that's what they did. The shop that I work at we're like known for the Fast and Furious campaigns. Mm-hmm. So they're known for taking that piece of music and just cutting everything to the beat. And so that's what I want to do. So I had done the Creed 1 teaser, and that was like, I'm writing a song and everything's syncing up. All the punches are syncing up to the beats of the song. And then when I kind of transitioned over to horror, I'm sure I brought a little bit of that with me. You know, like you said, especially Green Room and Climax for sure. Side note, Green Room was originally cut to Nirvana, Something in the Way.
Oh, yeah.
It was incredible. That was one of my favorite trailers that never made it out into the world. We had a clearing issue with Courtney Love, and then last minute we had to change to Bad Moon Rising.
And is that something that's quite common in your line of work, where you can have this song that is perfect and then last minute it's like, no, you can't have that song, and it completely changes everything around about, do we get another song? Do we use a cover? Do you almost have to throw an entire thing out? And as you mentioned, some of these trailers go to version 60, version 16, and it's like, I can't do this trailer in that form. It's got to be volume 1 again.
Yeah. I wish there was a way or like a YouTube channel or something for people to see these lost trailers that nobody sees. It happens all the time. Where which one, like The Big Short I cut, and that was a version 40 up to this one like hip hop song, and then the very last minute we switched music. It happens all the time, and you just fall in love, and because your weeks, your days and your weeks are involved in just hearing the song and over and over and over. And then like, they're like, nope, it's got to leave. And so you're just like, it's frustrating and it's painful, but it's part of the job. And you really have to train yourself to let go. And if you hold on so long, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But yeah, there's a ton of trailers lost out there in the world that people haven't seen that I'm sure are just amazing.
It Comes at Night followed, and it's a really interesting trailer. It's been one that's brought up before, where the trailer and the film are very two different kind of entities. The trailer leans into the horror and thriller, whereas the film is a bit more of a kind of quiet piece. What's your kind of thoughts on those? Do you feel like as a sort of movie editor, you've got to emphasize certain parts more than others to perhaps sell a film like that? Or is it very much someone telling you, we want this to be sort of marketed as a horror and thriller, a bit more kind of to maybe bring in that kind of audience?
Right. Well, It Comes at Night, I would say we're kind of being asked to amp it up a little bit, just to sell it a little better. But that's the one trailer of my body work where I'm probably doing a little disservice to the film, and at least to the viewers, where I'm not representing the film 100% of what I could have been. Yeah, that one kind of came together. It just, we wanted to sell the question of what's out there. And if I'm going to give a spoiler of the film, there's really nothing out there. And so marketing, you have to at least suggest that there's other things out there for that one. I'm sure a few people might have been upset after watching the trailer and then seeing the movie, but these things happen. I apologize. The film is still great though.
Oh yeah. The trailer I love the most of your body of work is the Climax trailer. I think it's one of my favorite modern movie trailers. It screened almost nonstop at my local indie cinema, and I was hooked. When you get a film like Climax to work on with so many auditory and visually appealing images and elements, what's that like when it drops on your door, a Casper No film?
Yeah, that was great. And that was, by that time, I definitely had my feet under me. And when I saw that, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with that. We kind of pitched. I remember writing the email. I'm like, A24 wasn't really sure what to do with it. But for some reason, I knew that I wanted to make this movie. I wanted to make this trailer where I obviously start with the interviews, and then you really only have to just suggest that you set up some characters in the interviews, that there's a dance competition, and you suggest something's going to go wrong, and then you're just off to the races there. The dance footage, the opening scene in the dance footage is just incredible. I remember watching that 3 or 4 times, bringing people into my bay and just watching that first reel. I'm like, just sit here and watch this. It's just incredible. It just came together, and we had that song. The song was in the movie. I just wanted to set up that something might be wrong with this party, and then from there it's just off and rhythmic dancing. And it took me a while to get all the visuals together to pop right. And then I remember doing the flash frames with the punch and stuff in that. That one was really not a lot of pain. It was a whole ton of fun cutting that one.
The film is also in a foreign language. How much do you have when you're like a movie editor and you're thinking, how do I get an American audience into a film like that who can traditionally be averse to going to see a foreign language film? Do you go, maybe we pull back from playing up that it's this French indie film, or do we lean into it? Is that type of decisions you get from like a studio or a decision you make yourself? How does that kind of work when that kind of decision's on the line?
I think that one's also a little bit of both. We were lucky enough to have a few English-speaking characters in the interview tapes, so I knew I wanted to start with that. I wanted to start with somebody saying something in English, and then from there, it is what it is. If it's not in English, it's not in English. A24, it's probably not the case where you have to worry about this question that you're asking. I'm sure they're just fine. I mean, obviously they're fine with whatever language it is. And if this was another studio where I would like more money was on the line, I'd probably say maybe you just do the English language dialogue and you'd strip back some of the subtitles. It's tough to say, but with this one, with Climax particularly, I wanted to start with English, but I also know I needed more dialogue, so I had to use it. And that one, since I had to use subtitles, I did this. I thought was pretty interesting. This, your subtitles are typically lower on the bottom of the screen. I was able to play with the mat and the subtitles in that enough to make it interesting, so it wasn't just a bland subtitle.
The Hereditary campaign followed, and it's become incredibly iconic. I imagine it's a real badge of honor for you and your studio. How did you feel about your work on that campaign, and what was it like to work on that project?
Yeah, that one definitely for my career sticks out as probably the number one. Working on that was great as well, but it didn't come without its challenges. We had that one a little early on, polished, and I remember watching the film when it was finally polished, and I was blown away at how Ari Aster, the finishing touches that he did made a world of difference. But yeah, working on that one, we kind of had, like I said, sorry, we had it early, and we knew that we wanted to focus on Toni Collette, but we didn't want to touch at all of the rituals and the paganness of it all in the back end. We had cut the trailer, and our client wanted to see a stripped back version of it. So we kind of cut that. It was well liked from us and the studio. And then we kind of put it on the shelf for a while. And we worked forever on this other piece that never ever came out because it just never topped what I cut originally and what eventually did come out. So that was kind of one where it was like, worked on it, left it alone, and then kind of just picked it up at the end and finished it. So it was a really great version one that we had put out, and just kind of fine-tuned it, and it went out in the world. And then that campaign was great because we did that Mother's Day spot, which was just a ton of fun. Yeah, that the Hereditary came. I guess I'm not saying. I'm trying to figure out something interesting to say about it, but it was just a fun time to work on that.
Is it interesting sometimes where people will dive into your work going, oh, it must have had this huge impact, where it's like, that's just my day job. I make these trailers, and it's for the rest of the world to deal with in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, and it's, at some point it is a job. So it's like, I have to get this done. I have to make these decisions, and it's wild. I could be having a shitty day, and I'm like, I'm going to make this decision, and it totally makes the trajectory of this trailer go one way. It's in a fun way. We wield a lot of power. We don't realize it. We're trying to make the best piece possible for the filmmaker, for everybody, and just for ourselves. But some things just happen. We need a shot there, and we're scrubbing through the movie, and we get lucky. And I'm like, wait a minute, her face matches up exactly with her face here. And you're like, boom, this is a great match cut. So there's some luck. There's some total luck involved sometimes.
One of the things I love about the Hereditary trailer, and it always stands out for me, is there's use of original elements in it. Like the trailer opens up with this like model house, and we kind of see this bit of like Peter being woken up within the model house, which is completely unique to the trailer. Was that designed by yourselves, or was that an element provided by sort of Ari Aster and the studios? How did things like that come around? And I think even it's like an alternative cut of the funeral to throw people off as well, and sort of the character's fate.
We didn't have, funny story. Well, we had the miniature set. That was just an amazing way to start a trailer. As I first watched the film, like, we got to start with that. Finishing wise, we weren't going to have that shot finishing for the trailer, and I was like, no, we have to have this. Like, this is everything. And I remember the finishing, a company called SSI, they composited the dad walking in for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had the zooming in on the miniature and seeing a real human walking in. It wouldn't have been that way. You just would have seen, it wouldn't have looked like a miniature had they not done that. But yeah, we had dailies on that project, so we were able to play around and find stuff that really worked for the trailer. The funeral shot going down into the dirt was just a special shot, and we try to treat every A24 logo differently for each film, and that one seemed like a no-brainer with that shot. We had talked about doing stuff with worms and stuff, but we didn't want to go overboard. Just but yeah, I think Ari had that plan, but I'm not sure it was like that in the final feature, right? Mm-hmm. The way I'm walking in. Yeah.
It's all, one of the things that got me really interested when I was sort of thinking about sort of the nature of sort of trailers and what leads into others is we all think about that incredible click sound from Charlie, and it's become quite iconic. And you almost think, is it part of the film? Is it part of that ad campaign that everyone saw and heard about, that clicking noise? And you think it's probably both. It's probably both have contributed towards this kind of iconic element. What was it like for yourself when you were kind of putting that together? Because a lot of the trailer is edited to these kind of clicking noises. And did you realize it would be an element that would really stand the test of time? We had the actress that played her, and she was like, people ask me all the time still to do that kind of clicking noise as well.
That's great. Yeah, that was another like, as I'm breaking down, like that, this element must be in this film. I remember I had a music company kind of enhance it. There's a really subtle layer underneath all of her practical clicks. If I can I can use these clicks as cutting tools. And if I'm going to do a match cut, you just do a click and it'll pay off at the very, very end when she does after the title, she does her click. But yeah, it was just a special thing of that trailer, or of that movie, where I'm like, this must be incorporated into the trailer. So yes, I think you have like these pieces that you're really drawn to as you watch a movie, and you're like, how do I put this all together? You know this miniature shot has to go in there. You know this pan down into the dirt cemetery shot has to go in there, and these clicks do. And it's just about having these like puzzle pieces and just arranging them and trying to get them all syncopated, and that's the job.
Midsommar followed, and how much confidence does like the success of Hereditary and working with Ari Aster did you get kind of going into this film? Because it feels like everything that you did so well with Hereditary, you mentioned like that Mother's Day campaign, you got to do more of everything, more different variations, more variants, more different ideas, logo play, how did it kind of feel going into this campaign?
Yeah, that we were obviously like bring it on, what's next? And like, we really dug into Midsommar. That's such a special movie. That's because it is shot all in daylight. The flowers, we had our graphics team actually shoot. They created that logo kind of from scratch. They shot the wood. We were toying with the idea of actually planting flowers, time-lapsing them ourselves and putting them in there. But we did not have time. So we actually bought like a pack from online of time-lapse flowers. And the graphics team just did an amazing job with the logo treatment. Cutting that, like I said earlier, we cut and we had some dark graphics in there, and our client said, no, lean into it. So we pulled in just bright graphics, and we're cutting probably version 3. I was like, how do I make this even brighter? That's when I changed the top and bottom black matte to white. So the whole thing was just this bright spectacle, but it was also really creepy at the very end. And that was fun. That I tried to do just the teaser. I just wanted to place that one simple idea of what the characters are feeling. they're being welcomed into this unknown. And that first teaser of the footsteps walking down the path, it's like you're the viewer and you're walking into this unknown world, and we're giving nothing away besides some visuals in the back end. But it was just like, again, with like the Eggers films, I'm being offered, like, on my plate, I have all these amazing visuals, and it's like, I'm like, just don't fuck it up, you know?
You mentioned the White Bar trailer. I remembered for a while, like, it was strongly rumored up until even near enough release that it was like the film's not going to have the traditional black bars. It was going to be white bars. Was that something where that was the case kind of with the film, or was that some like a rumor that had just kind of grown arms and legs, and maybe sort of your trailer ended up accidentally kind of feeding into that kind of story?
It must have been a rumor. I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess you're not allowed to do that. It must have been a rumor. That would have been great though. It was definitely, it must have been the trailer, just, you know, sparking some conversation. But I never heard that Ari wanted to do that. Would have been cool though.
I've been thinking a lot about sort of Saint Maud as well recently. That was a film I got to see well in advance. I got to see it at London Film Festival in 2019, 2018. Can't remember. Mine's all kind of gone blank and lockdown. And it's one of those ones, like, I went into it completely blind. But the trailers had to do a lot of heavy lifting with lockdown. There is not many. Everyone saw this trailer, wanted to see this film, and they've had to wait a long time up until a couple of months ago to see it. Was that a kind of testament to your trailer that people were able to keep up that interest, remember this film, be wondering when it's coming out, tweeting A24, when are we getting this film kind of coming out? Have you felt that ad campaign has had to do a lot more heavy lifting than when it was perhaps originally envisioned?
Yeah, it's a testament to probably the trailer, but also just to A24's body of work. You're almost all but guaranteed, you know, a great watch with their stuff. But Saint Maud we joke, that's a movie that got lost in the coronavirus. It had so many release dates. Even I remember being locked down, and we picked it back up again, and we had a second trailer that never came out. Got picked back up again, and like everybody's playing musical chairs for release dates, and it just never happened. I don't know. I can't tell if it's hard to say. The trailer was so long ago, I feel like, but it must have made a lasting impression that people were still anxious to see it, and I hope everybody still gets a chance to see it, because I think it just came out on like Epix.
Yeah, it was #1 in the UK when we had our cinemas are still closed for another couple of weeks, but we had a brief sort of opening kind of last year, and it went to #1 in the UK. And obviously it was still sort of same ad campaign, just maybe A24 is kind of taken out and put in with the UK distributor. So yeah, it was a #1 film here in the UK.
Oh, fantastic. It's a great film.
Yeah. Is it a challenge as well with a film like that, where it's kind of similar to, say, It Comes at Night, where it's quite a quiet and reflective piece, but with moments of real shock and awe? Do you ever have sort of worries or concern when you're thinking, right, do we play one of these elements that might shock in the cinema? Like, I think of the nails in the shoes. I remember just sitting in the cinema, just tensing up watching that. And do you think, do we put that in, or do we leave that as a surprise, a shock? Is there a lot of debate that goes into those little moments between you and a studio, perhaps?
Yeah, yes, it's a fine balance. You need something to kind of hook the people and at least give them a little taste, but you don't want to spoil anything, obviously. But the nails in the shoe did such great work for us in terms of the trailer, where that's everything you want. I mean, most people will just sit and cringe when they see that and turn away. And I remember sound designing that scene in the trailer for a couple days, getting the squishy gush right and the popping right. But yeah, the right visuals paired with the right audio obviously can do wonders for you. And that just kind of, if you had a moment like that kind of like, that's all we need. That'll sell it. That's good. Yeah.
You used Billie Eilish's "Good Girls Go to Heaven" to soundtrack the film. What's it like for you when, like, that is a song that isn't part of the original soundtrack in a way? That's one that you guys have chosen, or it's been the one that's made the final cut. Are you someone that has like a big knowledge of kind of music, and you're always kind of watching a film and thinking, oh, that song that I heard the other week would be great for that, or that Nirvana song from the 90s? How does your brain pick songs, and how does that kind of come about?
Well, you kind of, editors will squirrel away songs. They'll hear a song and like, oh, that's going to be good. And over the years, you've just squirreled away so many songs, and you kind of have like these, you have these bins of music, and you're always trying to use them because you love them. But the Billie Eilish one came about. We tried to use some of the music in the earlier versions that was in the movie. It just wasn't popping, and we tried to get some music companies to customize it to make it a little more energetic, and it still wasn't working. And then it was actually the client A24's call to go something super popular, and from there we're like, great, like let's go with the top. And Billy, and with all the girls go to hell, was perfect for obviously for this religious movie. We customized that, made it a little slower, moodier to reflect the nature of the film, and yeah, it kind of came together.
Another trailer I love of yours is the Lighthouse, which seems to just nail the madness of this film. It's not a trailer that's like, here's what you can look forward to, or here's the plot. It's like the way it kind of uses the sea shanties, sort of crazy images, moments. It never spoils anything. It never gives anything away. You watch and go, that's going to be an experience. I want to go along with that one. What was that one like to work on? Another sort of Robert Eggers kind of film.
Oh, it was so great. I must admit though, watching Lighthouse for the first time in the edit bay, in my mind, it was my fault. I was expecting this. I was expecting, let's just say, The Witch 2, right? Mm. And it's definitely not that. It's something completely different and completely amazing. It kind of took me till a second viewing to really realize what it was, and then kind of fall in love with it then. But I took some of my lessons from working on The Witch, and I knew I really didn't need to go explore music outside of what was in the film. The score was, again, amazing and original. That song was in the back credits, and the shanties is just perfect for those two guys are just amazing. I kind of just got out of the way. You kind of just set up these characters and just get out of the way. Like let the movie, let the visuals do all the work. Because I think that's what, I get a lot of praise for the trailer, but I think that the visuals are what people are responding to. They're just responding to how amazing that movie looks. And I don't know how amazing the trailer is. I'm just offering up a small little taste of what this movie was, and people they wanted to eat it up.
I know me and my co-host cannot wait for the Green Knight. It's been a long wait for it. It is an amazing sort of teaser that leans into visuals and typography. What's the kind of challenge with, say, just making a small 1-minute teaser where it's just selling something that's going to be kind of coming soon compared to, a full theatrical trailer? Like, I can imagine the ad campaign will maybe start to ramp up soon with a film kind of due to come out in July. Imagine there's a lot of things that are still up your sleeves to be shared with the world. What's been, obviously I'm sure you can't talk about them, but what was it like with the teaser and kind of that kind of approach of just teasing and very much using typography to tell a bit of a story?
Yeah, that one was a ton of back and forth. We had cut some stuff that didn't use any typography, and it was just like a traditional teaser of Dev talking and kind of setting up his quest. So we cut a lot of versions, and to get to this one, I think using the typography was pretty smart. That was a client kind of direction, because this is kind of looked at as the oldest story ever told. And to get that typography, it kind of nails it that this is an old story. And we just tried to strip back as much as we could. We leaned on that first opening shot as long as we can to kind of build suspense. And then the visuals of this movie are just stunning. And that's another one where you kind of, less is more, at least for the first piece that we cut.
One thing that I'm so glad that we've got you on today, because like I mentioned at the start of the show, like we talk about your work all the time, but we're not able to give the praise to the studio that you work for or you. One thing like I've taken for granted this whole time until I was listening to you on a podcast, the Trailer Geeks and Teaser Gods podcast, where I think it was either you or the host of the show went, oh, and you guys obviously designed the A24 logos and variants on the trailers. And like up until that moment, I was like, well, that's surely designed by the studio themselves. I go, this is the variant we want. Like I never realized that was the studio guys. And like I think we touched on with like the flower ones or Saint Maud or the Witch with the Woods. I always just thought that's someone else. How much fun is that when you get an element where you go, we're allowed to design a logo for them. We can play with them, and you see them now in GIF form. You see like compilation videos with all these different logos, but people maybe don't realize that's you guys at your studio.
Yeah, I mean that is just pure fun, because it's never really a requirement, because all the studios have their logos that we can just kind of plunk in if we wanted to. But it's all about making the trailer as special as possible and using every frame, every chance to do something sonically that's special. And this is, in my opinion, a wasted opportunity if you're not going to treat the logo. And I work very closely with a guy named Eric Peschel, who's the creative director of graphics. And he'll come over and we'll kind of talk about the movie. And we just kind of bounce ideas off of each other. And some of them seem obvious, but like Saint Maud, we were playing with candle ideas, and Green Knight, we were playing with other ideas until we came up with that. But it's just an opportunity to kind of like flex your creative muscle, and how can we take this movie and inject it into this logo, right? And it's just like the ideas flow. And in my opinion, the best Eric has done is the Midsommar logo with the flowers. Yeah. It's just pretty special. But there's some close number twos.
I've got like the Japanese like.
I have that
behind me, and it's got your little logo right underneath, next to sort of some Japanese fonts. So it's lived on even abroad.
Yeah, and A24 loved it so much they put it on a T-shirt. It's like that's how cool A24 is all about, that kind of stuff. So it's not only is it fun to cut their movies because they're so great, but like they're also on board to like make everything better, and it's just an amazing partnership.
How has kind of COVID impacted the trailer business? Like I always think of like, has it been more of a challenge to focus now on sort of ad campaigns for phones and social media, because that's all people can do at the moment, and not having the traditional route of cinemas to advertising, where people are going to be sat down with their popcorn and they've got no choice but to watch your work? Has it been a challenge to make sure people stop scrolling and click on your trailers and ads in this kind of current climate?
Yeah, I mean, trailers are a thing of their own. Luckily for us, people just love them, and they'll seek them out online. So they'll always live online. But kind of industry wide, we've really been shifting and adjusting to digital formats, to the phone, and it's a little trickier because you don't have as much real estate to work with, and you have to make editorial decisions on what can go into this little 9x16 frame. So it's evolving, it's changing. I'm obviously old school, and I hate it. I want to see I want to see this on the theater, or I want to see it on a big computer screen. I don't want to see it on this little tiny phone. I just don't want to. But it doesn't matter what I want. It's happening. So that's what I would say is COVID is, you could say COVID has expedited all trends, right? And we're noticing that is obviously the trend, and that's where everything's going. Everybody has a phone in their pocket, and that's where we're going to meet the consumer.
What are some of the highlights of the A24 filmography for you? And is there a movie that you'd love to have done the marketing campaign for that maybe you missed out on or didn't have the opportunity?
Yeah. Luckily, I'd say my top two, well, it's so hard, but I would some of my top two movies from them are The Witch and Green Room. The Green Room is just an incredible ride. The gore is just so realistic, and the tension is just insane. But I probably, one of my favorite trailers or movies even, and trailers is Uncut Gems.
Yeah. That
is such a great ride. You're like sweating after you finish watching that movie. We worked on it a little bit. We just did some like some digital stuff, and we had it in the shop. And some editors said that, I'm like, so what'd you think? They're like, I had to stop halfway through. I'm like, no, you need to take that drug all the way through. It's like, so that one was a special one that I wish I could have worked on. Yeah, I'd say that. Maybe mid 90s, but there's just so many. Under the Skin.
Yeah, I love that one. It's like shot just nearby to where I live as well. I love it. It's my favorite one.
Man. Oh, really? That's amazing.
Yeah,
I remember watching that in the theater, and I couldn't believe the sound work in that film.
It's that Mika Levy score just just hits the spot.
That score is like, we'll get a lot of movies in that are rough, and I couldn't tell you how many movies use that score as their temp score.
That's amazing.
And you're like, oh, this is going to be great, and you're like, oh wait, this is Under the Skin score, and then it's really tough to beat that. So a lot of the times it's not as good, obviously.
Now that people have heard you and know your work, where's the best kind of places to check out your work and stay up to date with any kind of projects you've maybe working on or releasing, Tommy?
I guess I try to post all my work on Instagram. Tommy Pitt is my handle, TOMMYPITT. But also our company, AV Squad, they'll have it up there as well. They have, our obviously our whole company's body of work, which is, the range is very wide. And I also post on LinkedIn as well, which is Tommy Malatesta, Malatesta. But yeah, and I also have a website, which is tommymalatesta.com, where definitely all my work is up there.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you today and to shine a light on the person that's behind so many things that we just take for granted. And, it's great that we can finally give you the credit that you and your team deserve.
I appreciate it. It's a blast. I'm still at heart, I'm a film nerd, and it's like anytime I get to do this kind of stuff, it's just fun.